a number of times, first in 1995, talking about a heavy workload in the various subjects in both primary and secondary school. And then later in 1999, a needs assessment was undertaken. It was found that the subjects were too many, and that the content in those subjects was too much, and that there was repetition across the subjects, the various subjects. The curriculum was then reviewed in 2002. You remember the number of subjects was reduced. And then in 2009, there was another summative evaluation that found that those who are leaving secondary school did not have the skills and job competencies for the job market. This is something also the Federation of Kenya Employers has raised. So there's been talk about this, and it's finally happening this week. It'll be led by the Cabinet Secretary for Education, Matiang'i. So that number, 2663. Let's break it down for you and what it means. And these are proposals that were put together in a task force headed by the former Vice Chancellor of Moi University, Douglas Odhiambo. This is what they were talking about. 2 years in pre-primary education, 6 years in primary, that's divided into junior primary and senior primary. And then this one as well, 3 years in junior high school, 3 years in senior secondary school. Now, some of the proposals here are that you can start to specialize in your senior secondary school, and there'll be possible divisions into those who want to do the arts, those who are into vocational training, and those who want to pursue the sciences, and that this is possible to happen there. Also, 3 years in university, and talking about scrapping exams altogether and ensuring transition from one stage to another without the big major exam, using continuous assessment tests to gauge your skills and your competencies rather than having one big exam. And this is what John Mugo of Uwezo Kenya talked about, saying the current system is set to glorify mastery of content over everything else and, quote, provides too little thinking and application. So perhaps this is a system. And remember also there's a bill that you should be looking out for that's been proposed by member MP Joyce Lay, and she's talking about a number of issues. It's pretty similar to this that has been raised by Odhiambo, Douglas Odhiambo, talking about criminalizing schools that fail to take in students from one stage to another, and in essence removing the idea of points that then qualify you to move from one stage to another. Now, if this 2663 is adopted, then it could start next year, and it'll start with class 1s and class 4s and also class 5s and class 6 to prepare them for junior high school. Now, this is what it could mean, that possibly the last persons to sit the KCPE, that's a primary examination, would sit for it in 2018 if this is implemented next year. And also for those who would be sitting for their secondary examination, those last persons to sit for the KCSE would do so in 2021. 2663 is the big number of the week that you need to note, especially as we go into those discussions later on this week. And that tonight is your number of the week. And now let's take a trip down memory lane. A year ago, March 26, 2015, President Uhuru Kenyatta made his State of the Nation address to the National Assembly, and in it there was the list of shame, which listed 175 top public officials suspected of involving themselves in corruption. In his speech, he talked about more transparency by releasing the names which were given to him by the CEO. He gave the EACC 60 days to investigate and charge those who were named. That's a decision that would come back to haunt him, and we'll get back to that in just a moment. And at that point, all commissioners of the EACC had resigned. Following that, 5 cabinet secretaries stepped aside, and that's Davis Chirchir, Charity Ngilu, Engineer Michael Kamau, Kambi Kazungu, and Davis Koskei. And that State of the Nation address was deemed to be one of the great big momentum started by the president. Did it yield any fruit? Some say perhaps not. More scandals continue to emerge in the year to date since the president made that big statement in the National Assembly. We have the 180 million shilling scandal at the Youth Fund, for which Bruce Odhiambo, who's the chair of the fund, has just recently stepped aside. Then we were subjected to the debacle of this 790 million shilling scam from the NYS. Now, we had the person who was the chief whistleblower on that one changing to chief suspect, and then she resigned. And then we remember the robust statements that were coming from State House in her defense. We even had the EACC clearing her for that. She resigned. That, of course, happened after her resignation due to health reasons. And, of course, a number of those damning allegations. After this, of course, we had those sensational claims in that affidavit by Josephine Kabura. Also, right after that, then we had this talk of the Eurobond scandal, putting Cabinet Secretary Henry Rotich at the center of that. Where did that money go to? Was it used for what it was meant for? Especially with that brief moment of the economic crisis, the economic financial crunch, I'd call it, that took place last year, the government being put on the spot. It didn't stop at the executive and the private sector with the tendering process. We also saw it in the judiciary, the Supreme Court of Kenya, then facing this big allegation from Justice Tunoi, who was alleged to have received a 200 million shilling bribe from agents of Evans Kidero. A tribunal has since been formed. Again, there was more controversy, so let's stay there for a moment, because the president said there was no need to form the tribunal. He wanted to wait for the court case regarding his retirement. And then he said after further consultation that he was going to form the tribunal. And then he named Sharad Rao to head that, questions about his suitability. And then we heard from a government official right here on Checkpoint who said it was now Justice Jonathan Havelock. And then it was back to Sharad Rao, who was then sworn in. That tribunal is yet to sit, so we're waiting to see what happened there. Then there have also been some moments of triumph, perhaps. According to the EACC, they claim that 161 high-level officials have been charged from that 175 list of shame. But it's also instructive to note that that statement that was made by the president at the State of the Nation exactly a year ago would come back to haunt him when that three-judge bench said Uhuru had no mandate to give the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission 60 days to investigate and charge those who were named in that one. Something else also to note is that the EACC is now fully constituted, getting their commissioners. It's now chaired by Philip Kinisu. But it's also important to mention that throughout this time, after that speech, that the president declared graft a threat to national security. And we know about that report that he received from the private sector. We had those declarations of wealth from CEOs like Bob Collymore, as well as the man at the helm of KCB. The president said companies would be blacklisted and also their directors who are engaging in corruption. This is also a good one. There's now an anti-corruption and economics crimes division of the High Court. It's headed by Justice Edwig Ongondi and deputized by Lady Justice Lydia Achode. There's also the anti-bribery bill. So much going on, so much talk, so much promise. But lest we forget tonight, no one has yet been jailed for the crimes of corruption. And perhaps until that happens, all of these continue to be talk and grand posturing, both from the executive and the judiciary, as well as the EACC. So lest we forget, a year later, no convictions. Lest we forget, 3 years down the line, Mr. President, the EACC still has no prosecutorial powers, even though that is what you mentioned in one of your great pillars of the manifesto.
Tulipata tunajaribu kwenda kwa afya wa jamaa. Leo wakianza na wale watu wenye walimaliza game, at least game itakuwa poa.
Excitement grew every minute, but gradually faded away as time tickled away with Harambee Stars wasting numerous chances. There was, however, a moment of controversy as Zimbabwean center referee Norman Matemera allowed Jonas Mendes' controversial goal to stand. A section of fans protested against the decision as they engaged in a running battle with police officers.
Mambo kama haya ni nadra kutokea. Ilikuwa haina haja supporters wetu kurusha mawe. Watu wamekuja na familia zao. Kama leo nimekuja na kazeni yangu hapa na mke wake na watoto, imagine. Sababu gani imetokea sasa hivi? Aibu tupu hiyo sasa.
Pira imechezwa vizuri. Leo vijana walikuwa juu wamejituma, but luck was not on our side. Anyway, those people unfortunately they have scored. And according to the replays, pia nimeona mali pengine it was a clear goal. So mashabiki wangetulia kidogo. Ingawa ni uchungu kufungwa nyumbani with a tiny country ambao FIFA ranking tuko juu yao, ni uchungu, lakini hawangerusha mawe.
The match resumed after about half an hour, but Stars failed to equalize. The results means Harambee Stars might have to wait for another 3 years to get a chance of qualifying to the Africa Cup of Nations. Abula Ahmed, KTN Sports.
Strathmore Leos won the 24th edition of the Top Fry Great Rift Tennis-Side Championships. The three-day competition came to a close Sunday evening at the ASK Nakuru Showground. Leos dismissed stubborn and never say die Cabras Sugar 10-0 in a fast and pulsating encounter. Strathmore Leos took a 5-0 lead through an unconverted try by Tony O'War, scored in the 5th minute. The Sugarman forwards tried their hearts out in the entire match but were thwarted by the Leos' watertight defence. Hosts Nakuru finished off the tournament without silverware after they lost to Kenya Cup champions KCB. KCB backed the shield as the Catholic monks took the bowl.
Thank you for making
This is a start, right? So there will be more coming. We almost budgeted 10 million for this year's season, so that we are spending on the youth. Because see, Kenya is a sporting nation. It represented by the youth. So it's really a great opportunity for us as a Menengai that we are giving something back to the community, to the youth, and to build a nation.
Rahim Malik scored a brace to inspire Shaurimoyo Blue Stars to narrowly ease past Kawangware United in a 4-3 drubbing at Camp Toyoyo grounds. Vincent Otieno and Brian Otieno were also on the mark as the Shaurimoyo outfit leapfrogged Jericho All-Stars to assume second position on the log with 17 points. In other matches played at the same ground, Melta Kabiria emerged 3-1 winners over Kayole Youth, while Ajax failed to find their footing in a 2-1 loss to Babadogo United. Diguna FC clinched victory over Massa FC in a 1-0 scoreline. Now, Griffins FC, Stardom FC, Nyanza Raiders FC and Y-Zone FC will represent Kisumu in the next round of the 2016 AstroTurf Challenge after making the cut in the tournament that took place in Kisumu. The under-23 teams managed to beat 28 other teams from the region to bag a ticket to the finals in Nairobi, to be held from the 9th to the 10th of April. In the finals, the winning teams will receive a grand prize of 200,000 and the best 11 players from the under-15 and under-18 categories will be recruited into the Green Sports Academy on full scholarship, courtesy of gaming platform M-Cheza.
Cheza kwa kuleta tournament kama hii, in fact ni challenge kubwa sana kwa county government yetu. At least wao pia wachangamke for them to come up with such a tournament so that our youths can be nurtured, wengi wao wapate chance ya kucheza ball.